Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be looking into the case of Annie McCann, a 16-year-old who went missing from her Virginia home, an upscale suburb in Fairfax County. And I told you guys that I'm going to start looking into cold cases that I feel like should be reopened. Early Halloween morning in 2008, around 6 a.m., was the last time that her father, Dan McCann, seen her as he said goodbye to her as he was going to work. Her mom, Mary Jane, was visiting her brother Sam in upscale New York, who was in college. Her parents said that she was a sheltered teen. She was a homebody. She had no social media accounts, no Facebook, no Twitter, no Snapchat or Instagram. And they heavily monitored her at all times if she was online. Her parents allowed her a Facebook account with one condition, that her parents were able to look at it whenever they wanted and had any passwords. And Annie agreed to the condition, seeing that she only would post drawings and paintings. Because Annie, apart from her being a great student in high school, she loved art, she played basketball, she was extremely smart, funny, and witty, and everyone loved her. All of Annie's artwork was showcased all around the family's home. But the one thing she loved more than painting was her dog, Max. Every year, Annie loved to make goodie bags for the kids on Halloween. Also, Annie had a routine. Every day after school, Annie would phone her mom or her dad if they were not home. But while her mom was gone, she never got that reassuring phone call and began to worry. So her mom started asking neighbors. She started calling around the neighbors to see if they have seen her or the family car, because the family had a car that she would use to get to and from school. And all the neighbors said that they didn't see her all day, and they haven't seen the car all day either. After talking with the neighbors, the mom called her dad at work, and he rushed home to hear the phone ringing. Once he answered it, he found out that Annie's school was on a voicemail message to let the parents know that she had been absent from school all day. So he called the police. Once the police arrived, they had nothing to go on at first. And the officer didn't even seem worried or concerned. They thought that she was just being a teenager and, she was just acting out, and that she ran away for a little bit and she would be back. Because kids do it, because teenagers and kids, they act out all the time. But despite what the officer was telling the parents, they were still worried, because they knew their daughter. They knew that she was not the type of teenager to act out. I mean, she was a sheltered teen who always did what she was told, and they didn't believe that she was acting out and that she ran away, because deep down they knew that she was not the rebellious type. Being 16 years old, she had just recently got her ears pierced. Now, this is important. This is an important piece of her case, because her getting her ears pierced is ultimately what caused her demise. She was obsessed with keeping her ears pierced with a first aid spray called Bactine. Not even 48 hours later, a detective responds to a call of a junkie dead behind a dumpster in a housing project called Perkins Home in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, this is 50 miles away from her home, her family home. And a man taking out the trash in this Perkins Home's apartments. Basically, it's a project apartment. It's an apartment in the projects. This man was taking out his trash, and he discovered a body. He discovered a body of a young lady. Now, upon recovering her body, they immediately ruled it a homicide. It was said that she was not beaten or abused, and it didn't look like there was any foul play involved at all. This is coming from the Baltimore Police Department. next to her body was her backpack. And that's how they were able to determine that the young teen girl was Annie a half hour later. Soon after discovering that the body was Annie, the detective drove that 50 miles to break the news to her parents in person. Now, after looking into this case, it just begs all of these questions. Like, how did a sheltered 16-year-old girl who lived in the suburbs end up behind a dumpster in the projects 50 miles away from her home? After receiving the news about Annie, her mom went into her room to search for answers of why she would leave so far away. Her parents were stunned at what they saw on her bed. It was a note. Annie had taken $1,000 in cash money she had stashed away, all of her favorite clothes, and even a box of cereal. But nothing in the note said anything about her going to Baltimore, Maryland, and her parents said there was absolutely no connections to Baltimore, and it just didn't make sense that she would choose to go there, of all places. And her mother believed she wouldn't even be able to find her way to Baltimore. As the detective was talking to the parents, he stated himself that 95% of cases in Baltimore, Maryland, in those project apartments are African Americans shot dead on a street corner. And that he obviously is going to look at this case twice and not just glance over it as your average everyday case. So looking into the case of Annie, pieces started to come together, cracking her case. First, Annie's family car was found abandoned at a gas station by police. Then a small fingerprint smudge was found that matched somebody that was already in the police database. And it turns out, after running that print through, the police found out that it belonged to a teen boy who said that he and some friends saw the car in the projects and continued to say Annie was face down in the back seat of the car, already dead. So they ended up dumping her body behind a dumpster and going joyriding at her car. So instead of informing the police that there was a dead body in a car, they dumped her body behind a dumpster and they took her car. Of course, they weren't going to inform the police because they wanted the car. But to their knowledge, she was already dead in the back, so they went ahead and they dumped her behind a dumpster. As sick as it sounds. These are teenage boys. One of the teenage boys, his name is Darnell Kinglaw. His fingerprint was the one that was found in the car. However, police did not charge him or any of the other boys with assaulting Annie. Because of the condition of her body, they could not charge any of the boys. They said that she was not beaten, strangled, stabbed, or shot. So once the autopsy reports came in, everyone was literally shocked. Ethanol. Annie had a small amount of alcohol in her blood, but she had a very large amount of lidocaine. Lidocaine is a drug used as a numbing agent in various different over-the-counter products, including Bactine, the first aid drug she had for her newly pierced ears. Her autopsy reported in the end she died from lidocaine poisoning. When the police went back to the gas station, they found a pile of trash. They didn't think nothing of it other than it was just a random pile of trash. But right near her car was a small bottle of Bactine with the lid removed, but it's not a screw top. It's not a screw top bottle. You would have to use force to remove it. And Annie's DNA was found on the exposed part of the bottle. The medical examiner who performed the autopsy wouldn't guess how the lidocaine got into her system, calling it undetermined. but the detectives automatically claimed suicide. They basically opened and shut the case. That she committed suicide using the Bactine and the lidocaine in it killed her. Her family just felt like things weren't adding up and that she just drank a small bottle of Bactine and then ran and just died. Her parents felt ultimately that she did not commit suicide because the letter said she was going to commit suicide, but later thought that she would just start over. And if she was going to commit suicide, why go all the way to Baltimore to do it? 50 miles away from her family home just to commit suicide. And if she drank that Bactine, why was her fingerprints not on that bottle? And who writes a to-do list on their hand if she planned to commit suicide that day? Nobody has heard of anyone overdosing on Bactine, especially a teenager who lived in the suburbs. She lived a good life in the suburbs. So once Annie's parents planned the funeral arrangements, things got even more shocking. 1 week after she died, her parents planned the funeral arrangements. Her body was taken to the funeral home, and there the funeral director immediately thought she was murdered just by looking at her body once, as soon as she arrived. And what is even more shocking was that Annie's heart and brain was not returned to her body, and she was not a donor. So how could the medical examiner claim that her heart and her brain was lost? The funeral director said there was no way this was a suicide with all the trauma on her body. Now her parents said that the police told them there was none. There was no trauma. Her mother kept going to the police after this, but they would just dismiss it by saying the head and the neck area and the ankle area were just minor abrasions. No evidence of assault whatsoever. So finally her parents get to see her body pictures and find a cigarette burn on her forehead, a letter J on her left ankle, and worst of all, they think they see signs of sexual assault. Now, of course, this was shocking to the parents. Parents felt like they could not believe the pictures of what they were seeing, that their daughter had literally been tortured, and the police just dismissed it. But after even more research and talking with medical experts and getting second opinions on Annie, it was said that the Bactine bottle wouldn't be enough lidocaine in that Bactine bottle, that small Bactine bottle that Annie had, to kill her. And the maker of Bactine, which is the Bayer Corporation, wrote a statement proving that the small bottle of Bactine would not be enough to commit suicide and kill someone. They even said that they tried to reach out to the police department with the same statement. After all of this was said and done, ultimately, in the end, the police department closed the case. But the McCanns felt that her death needed to be changed to homicide, and that the Baltimore PD botched the case. Tell me what you guys think down below. Should her case be reopened? Should it be changed to homicide? Share your thoughts and opinions. I personally think that the case should be reopened. It should be ruled as a homicide and not a suicide. And if you feel the same way, go ahead and thumbs up this video. Leave your comments down below, and I will see you guys in my next video.